getting a seat last week?
Oh my God, everyone had like 12 of us at the table. It was like,
Because I was already rushing from another, I was like, I'll just go watch it.
I actually stayed for the program for one
Oh,
second.
did you? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was just crazy last week. That was, and then it was great that you had the people that get up and leave early because they were using their seats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have 3 months of that.
Mhm.
It's still at CCY, but we're in a different room because the law room's getting ready. So we're actually kind of split. There's like a half wall in between the two where we're seated at.
But again, it was the first week, so they have to knock out the kinks.
Well, so you want fire there?
Pattering my nose, boss. I take care of my board members.
What's the time anyway, right?
Most of the time. I try to. How's that? Looks like a raucous crowd this evening. Just can't understand why everybody else doesn't find this as exciting as I do.
All right, well, at 4 o'clock, go ahead and call the meeting order.
Can you please make sure your red lights are on?
Sorry.
Wait, the audience just tripled.
She said, every city meeting I go to,
She's a rock star.
wow.
Why is it so long?
So do I need to announce this future meetings?
I think she
What's
should.
that? Do I need to announce this future meeting schedule?
If you don't mind, that way if anyone is walking in from home, they know.
Oh, yes. You don't even know about shirts.
No.
I think she
You
should
gotta
be.
do a couple of years, but you get a shirt, you time 30 in a row.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty well then. I'm gonna figure out sooner than you think.
You would be the second inductee into our Hall of Fame. Of spectatorhood. He just wants company.
All right, our future meetings, the Redevelopment Authority will continue to meet on the third Wednesday of each month at 4 o'clock in Council Chambers, 101 South George Street throughout 2025. Our agendas will be posted at rdayorkcity.org. We did have executive session January 8th, 2025 to discuss real estate transactions. Anyone here for public comment? All right, hearing none, the approval of the meeting minutes of October 16th, 2024, as November and December were canceled. Any additions or corrections to the minutes as distributed? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, give the consent by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So ordered. Financial report.
Thank you. As stated on the agenda there, the general fund balance of all the accounts is $640,000. That does include 3 CDs that were approved in October, one at Fulton Bank, one at Presence Bank, and one at Traditions Bank. And our CDBG balances, as listed on your agenda, currently stands at $355,000.
All right, any questions on the financial report? Okay, Four Squares has asked to come back next month rather than give their presentation today.
Yeah, and I can elaborate a little on that. They are under option agreement for the 14 parcels on West Hope Avenue. That option agreement actually expired or sunset at December 31st of this year. So yeah, obviously, we're going to keep working with them. They are the recipient of the $3 million in ARPA funding to create affordable townhomes. They did get approval from Zoning Hearing Board and Planning Commission for a few site variances and like lot size and coverage and dimensional variances recently in December's meeting. I believe they might be going back to Planning Commission in January, and I'm sorry I didn't check But they're going to come and give a presentation on their status of their project, and it's becoming very exciting. So they'll be back in February.
All right, action items. Motion to extend the option agreement for 14. Are we doing that, or are we waiting till next month?
We will wait till next month.
Okay, all right. License agreement. Motion to renew the license agreement for garden lots, use of garden lots with York Fresh Food Farms for 20 parcels known as Cottage Hill Garden, God's Garden, Lincoln Street, and South Queen Street.
Yeah, I put the existing license agreement in your packet. It is a several-page document that has evolved over the years. This one began April of '22 and actually likewise expired the end of December of '24. Annalisa Gojeremic, who has been running the gardens for over 20 years, she recently told me, is seeking to renew the agreement. I suggest that we renew the license agreement for a 3-year period. This is cancelable by both parties or by either party at any time given notice. And she is aware that there are constantly people who have ideas, and if a good idea may happen to come along, she's aware that it could be canceled. I wanted to take a moment. She sent me an email this morning just as an update about the gardens. And of course, I'm aware of this, but it's nice to see it in one place. 2 of the 4 locations are hooked up with York Water Service to be able to consistently grow and provide food during the growing season. The other 2 gardens are improved spaces that do not have a water hookup yet receive rainwater from drains off of the adjacent building. So she's actually capturing rainwater to water flowers and plants that are there. The gardens grow a mix of edible vegetables, fruit, and native pollinators. I consistently have students, youthful up to mature, as well as volunteer groups, as well as individuals working in these spaces. I have a dependable relationship with York College Horticulture Department and the Women's Garden Club of York. They attend each year for projects as part of their regularly scheduled projects. Various religious groups, as well as probationary groups, also attend on a seasonal basis to spend time in these gardens. These green spaces do a lot to improve otherwise somewhat challenged neighborhoods. The produce grown here is donated to local volunteers and community neighbors, as well as Catholic charities, Life Path, and a variety of other food and nutrition-based nonprofits. So this is great. I love everything about it. Annalisa is an amazing person to work with. Only thing that I may add, I'm not sure if I want to put it in a license agreement or not, but we have a group of us with the RDA that does a little bit of, or is thinking about marketing and promotion for the Redevelopment Authority and public notoriety. I think I would like to consider putting signage on the gardens, acknowledging both the Fresh Food Farm and the RDA as, just community awareness of the good that's happening out there. But I'm a big fan of renewing this license agreement for a 3-year period.
All right, any questions?
I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
She was in here a couple of years ago as well. She really is wonderful. There has been discussion about the RDA potentially sponsoring an award at the Downtown Inc. Awards. She would be an ideal recipient.
I agree with that.
So as, I know we talked about this before, as a sponsor of an award, are we like choosing the recipient then, or is that done by some other committee?
No, boss, it's us.
Okay, all right.
Is it?
You get to do it.
Yeah. I don't know how.
Whatever Frank says.
Sponsor the award.
We'll
Get to
sponsor
pick,
and we'll
sure.
pick
It's
the
an
person.
RDA award.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can.
Yeah.
All right, any further questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion to renew the aforementioned parcels with York Fresh Food Farms for 36 months, you said?
Yes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor, give the consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So ordered. Staff report.
Just a few brief updates. Item A is the potential for the RDA to hold title on community development projects. I'm just teeing up the concept right now. I have been in brief conversations with Life Path and their executive director, Patrick Ball. They are considering, or they are going to be purchasing the, what's lovingly referred to as the Foundry property, the former Pewterex building. And we've been in discussions of the potential for the RDA to hold title to that property while they do the renovations and work on development of the project. The advantage to them is that they don't have the challenge of proving their nonprofit status for the use of the property, that it would transfer from the current owner to the RDA and instantly come off the tax rolls. So they are eventually a nonprofit anyway, but it's that weird time in between during construction where it's not really being used by a nonprofit that it causes a little bit of consternation with whether or not it's a taxable entity or not. Patrick continues to do the analysis on this, whether it makes sense or not for the RDA to be involved. But I just wanted to tee up that idea as a way for the RDA to at least provide some sort of assistance to a really important project in the community. Likewise, there's another entity that recently reached out and said, we're contemplating a development similar to that, and would the RDA wish to participate in some function? So just teeing up the idea that the RDA can participate in some of these public projects. We can't necessarily offer financial assistance, but we can provide a little bit of, even if it's environmental liability, because under Pennsylvania Act 3, we're similar to a bank. We don't have the environmental liability. So that removes the onus or the challenges that would be placed on an owner while they may do any environmental cleanup as well.
Never, ever, ever say that phrase, "we are similar to a bank."
As it relates to environmental liability.
They will call us on it, and we will have to give them money.
Banks also take in deposits, though.
It's true. Banks make money.
So along those lines, Yolanda, the general fund balance of $640,000 is unrestricted, correct?
Correct, other than the money that's locked into CDs right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. And those are fairly short term.
Yes.
I think it was
From 6 months,
10, and
6
24.
months, 13 months, and 24 months.
And potentially upon a closing, at least with Fred and Anthony, a couple $100,000 more could come in,
Correct.
giving us $900,000 in unrestricted funds. So you talk about community partnerships. As an alternative, is it also possible that we, as an entity that has $900,000, develops a site or purchases a site that needs to be rehabbed? And, it could be a $1.8 million site and we have a $900,000 down payment. Is there anything stopping us from doing a very conservative, non-leveraged type project without any partners at all, just ourselves, with our capital?
Not with our capital. There's no restrictions on the capital. It would simply be board policy and flavor for risk.
What did you say, labor for?
Flavor, what kind of flavor do you have for what type of risk that you wish to?
I would add, just with the next point on staff reports, there's a very real possibility of us needing to put some money in the Penn market also.
I was going to say the same thing. Hold that thought for a brief moment.
I would say incredibly strategic locations, not always based on profitability, but places that maybe aren't going to attract any other developers, but we can deploy our capital. It may not be the best ROI financially, but it could be an ROI that's hugely impactful otherwise.
And could be in perpetuity also for the RDA, as far as a revenue stream.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that.
I wanted to ask one more for George. He said, I don't care what happens to this, it could be the biggest vape store in Pennsylvania, I don't want this anymore. That's a former RDA property that he told me he would let go for 600, listed for 900, but he does not, his words, I don't care if it becomes the largest vape store in Pennsylvania, I'm out.
Well, we do have to approve whatever the next use would be.
I know, but he's, So if you realize who you're fighting with, he will pull all the lawyers out he can to win. He's a ruthless guy.
Where is he building his headquarters now?
Knoxville, Tennessee.
Okay.
So I wanted to point it out, I mean, it's not my place, but deed covenants should be strict, and he's got the corner of the square. You could take $600,000 of unrestricted money and buy back our corner, and then relist it, maybe make a couple $100,000 on the sale, but sit on it for potentially.
Well, we'd be buying something for 600, we sold for 550. I mean, I get your point of the resale, but
We put a lot of money into it, not a lot, but I just worry about what's gonna happen with that corner.
I appreciate,
Especially when was
I get it.
under control sometime.
I greatly appreciate that suggestion.
does Royal Square have any interest in it?
That was gonna be my next
I
question.
mean, I don't know what to do with it. That's why you need an RDA to hold it for a few years while we're building across the street, so we're building one South George this year, so it's just a lot to take on. Got enough empty buildings.
This sounds like a conversation for conference room grand falloons.
All right, anything on, additional on staff report A?
Yeah, just in your packet, I added, because I wanted to provide some project updates on Penn Market, item B. You'll see in your packet this little, couple slides I took off of a PowerPoint that I did. Penn Market, I received last week the 90% construction drawings. So we are just about there with the design. I want to publicly thank Royal Square, who did a pretty heavy lift for the RDA and at least did some cost estimates on that current design that we had at the time, which was probably about a 50% design on what our costs would be. On these 4 pages, the first page is the existing conditions, and you can see the crooked tables and the empty space. The second page on the back shows the kind of a schematic where we'll be adding an improved corner store at the corner of Market and Penn. We'll be adding a community room with a demonstration kitchen and the seating area. There'll be a back of house storage for vendors where they could rent little storage lockers and have a common garage or garbage area, garbage space, and maybe some prep space for the vendors. There is scattered improved public seating throughout in the yellow. And then there's the new restaurant with outdoor seating up in the front corner on Market Street where it should be. So that could potentially be open multiple days per week. A lot of thought was put into this design where in the community room and the restaurant in the front, you'll see between the orange and the red, there's a bathroom area. So essentially Market could be shut down and the vendor space is unaccessible on non-market days. But then on non-market days, these spaces could be open. So we have the ability to bring life into Market on off hours.
I'm assuming.
The third page is kind of our sources and uses as they exist right now with our $1.5 million in state RACP funding. The generous contribution from the city of wastewater treatment plant money of $325, the city ARPA allocation of $750, and to date, the RDA has paid $235,000 towards design, appraisals, feasibility studies, and this goes back several years. There is probably an additional $100,000 that the RDA will spend on design and construction management. There's also the match of the building, part of that, the building appraised at $340,000, which brings our total sources up to $3.15 million. Then on the bottom side of that is the uses. Our design soft costs are $363,000. Deducting that building value out of that capital is $340,000. And then the construction, available money for construction is about $2.4 million that's available for construction. Then when you flip it over to the back side, and here's where the good news comes in, our construction allowance is 2.4, and based on several iterations of funding right now, based on that 60% design, we're at about a 6.2, somewhere between 5.8 and 6.2, 6.4 of construction. So there's a shortfall of about $3.8 million on the Penn Market project, which is something I've been very cognizant of. We've been doing a lot of value engineering in this design. I'm hoping that our jump from the 60% design to the 90% design has shaved off a couple $100,000, but it's not going to shave off 3.8 million. So that's something that's always in the back of my mind is how are we going to fund this and move forward on it? So I just wanted to kind of bring up to date, especially now that I have the 90% drawings. We are getting month by month closer to being ready to go out to bid on this project. At the same time, once we get those actual construction pricing, we can't sign any contracts until we have our capital stack in order, until we have and figure out where we're getting all that money. Frank?
Couple questions on your first page. Where you have RDA paid to date 235,000. You have building value match 340. And under uses, you subtract the 340. Shouldn't you also subtract the 235 in RDA paid to date?
No, that's part of the soft costs.
Okay, so that's just the same thing.
Right.
Second question, building value match, does that include the parking lot, which is a separate parcel?
Yes.
Okay, because that has value.
Yes.
Okay. So on the schematic, that's pretty depressing. On the other side, that's pretty expensive. That's a big shortfall.
And again, the other thing we're looking at is how can we consider phasing the property? Can we consider doing mechanical and electrical in either in phases, or do we do mechanical and electrical? The problem is we need to fix mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. That's one of the challenges at Penn Market. We always joke that we could spend $5 million on this project and no one would know. Again, there's the exterior doors and windows that need fixed. The roof is in okay shape. There's a leak or two here or there, but that's only about 8 years old. So there are some, maybe a little older than 8. There are some things that we could potentially phase, but we continue to look at. Probably the low-hanging fruit on things that could be phased is just roughing out the community room and not finishing it, and seeing if we can find a donor or a sponsor or somebody who wants to step up and provide a couple $100,000 that would go specifically towards potentially even a named community room that would be sponsored by somebody who wants to be involved. Yeah.
You might have answered this before, but is the project eligible for any USDA funding?
Definitely, yeah. And every year there's a fresh food that's us. There's a farmer's market promotion program from the USDA. A lot of the USDA grants go towards operations, vendor training, safety, education for healthy eating. There is another program that is available for markets, which we've applied consistently over the few years, but we never had the designs and the firm budget to be able to. It's always been, well, we know we need money, but we're not sure how much, so we ask for a lot. This coming year, we'll be able to apply for it in greater detail, so hopefully that will help. Yeah, Frank?
So the end owner of our beloved Penn Market in this pro forma is
The RDA.
Yeah, already, yeah.
City RDA.
Correct.
So has any contact, I mean, that's a huge shortfall, but this is a really important asset to the city. And is worthy of attention, of course. So has anyone approached the foundations?
Not yet.
York County, because between York County Community Foundation, Powder Mill, Wareheim,
Memorial Health.
perhaps Brock or the healthcare systems, I think a lot of people would see this as worthy as writing larger than normal types of checks. And given that the end owner isn't like a private enterprise, probably helps. Does that sound right?
Well, there's been a lot of discussion internally, like Lando and myself, about how are we going to bridge this gap.
That's the only way, other than some kind of huge governmental grant.
Well, and there are two other options. One, and Royal Square had suggested this, is that we consider historic tax credits. They have experience and have offered to help a little bit with that, because it is a historic 1866 or 1876 building, and that might be wrong, it might be 1886. Can we use some of the money for facade restoration, windows, doors, those kinds of public-facing tax credit application? It becomes a little bit challenging because of the RDA not being a for-profit developer, because we're an authority, but there are ways we could work through that. So we want to open that door again and start talking about historic tax credits. And we also...
But it's not always what you think it's cracked up to be. I mean, the History Center abandoned historic tax credits because what they were gonna have an increased oversight and labor costs and things versus the savings just wasn't worth it. And they, so
Correct.
you need 3.8 million. I don't think historic tax credits are gonna bridge much of that gap.
We also have the opportunity, hopefully, I have a meeting scheduled with a RACP consultant right now. As you know, we have a $1.5 million RACP grant. That line item in the state capital budget was actually originally for $3 million. At the same time, the RDA is the grantee for a $6 million grant at the Northwest Triangle from the York Plan 2.0 Innovation District that is very, very heavily underutilized, or there is no future path to use all of that $6 million. So we're hoping that the state will allow us to take at least 1.5, if not 2 million or more of that RACP money that's unallocated and shift it over to the need at the Penn Market project. And if we can do that, that will take this $3.8 million gap down by $1.5 or $2 million. There's still going to be a need for additional match.
Well, that's
but
promising.
yeah,
I mean,
it's
that
very
coupled
promising.
with the foundations might bridge it.
I think we can do it. We
You
just,
want to do it quickly before construction costs inflate again, and your fundraising rounds seem to be cyclical.
correct.
Could I throw a comment out?
You might have to speak at the mic so people can hear you, but.
Now we're going to hear historic tax credit pitch.
Dylan Bauer, Royal Square Development, 29 South Duke Street. Historic tax credits, I hear you, Frank, and I've talked to Joan about it at length, the History Center. Probably have about $1 million in tax credit value on this project. The quick percentage is 16, it's 20%, but in this case, you could sell those credits for 80 cents on the dollar. I can name a bunch of banks and businesses and individuals that would buy them. So quick math comes out about 16%, which is around $1 million for the total project. New market tax credits, they're great. They take a ton of work. We've done 2 of them. We've done that. We've entertained the idea of doing that third party as a consultant. That's another way to get some quick cash. But contrary to what you have at the History Center, why that wasn't going to work is that new section in the middle.
Right.
They weren't okay with that. But because you have a very actually simple building, you're not changing the interior, you're not changing the columns.
I don't think we're
So
all sorts of
it's-
construction.
Yep, it's the historic tax credits like doors, windows, corridors, and exterior. Well, you're not doing anything to the outside or inside that's going to really change the integrity of the building. So I think it'd be actually one of the easier projects. You're in Harbs, so you're still going to have to wood frame windows. You can maybe get away with aluminum clad, which doesn't work for historics. So there's a little bit of a swing there, but I mean, you're talking anywhere from 900 to $1 million in just cash value that a bank would pay you 80 cents, right away. So, and we'd be happy to help with that stuff. Our number on that, I mean, our team, just, you said it, but they spent, I don't know how many hours, like hundreds of hours actually, between meeting everybody. And what we're proud of in our company is that's what it's actually going to cost versus a lot of times you get this is what it's going to cost, then it gets changed ordered up the whole way because, it's unforeseen conditions, it's a historic building. Well, we just ask all the questions now so that we're not going to hit you with these change orders. Yorktown, 50 million turned into 70 million. So it's, that's the stuff. But anyway, happy to help.
Yeah, as an example there, just to simplify it a little bit, the original, the 60% design drawings, the architect had put in there to go in and sandblast and remove all of the white painted columns, to remove all of that paint, and then paint the ceiling white, to almost like flip the building upside down. And we found that's a $450,000 cost between stripping the paint and painting the ceiling. Well, we really don't need that. That doesn't make any sense. Sure, architecturally, that would be maybe the way that they think it should look, but from a constructability and real life scenario, do we really need to flip the paint colors just and spend $500,000 doing so? So that's, their efforts have been invaluable on that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to present this kind of as a, here's where we stand as an update, just to, it's been in the back of my mind for months, if not years, that there may be a shortfall here, but we're getting to the point where we've got to start carrying the water a little bit on this. So it's an update, a brief update. On the other two things that I had on the agenda, just because they're ongoing, I'm trying really hard to refer to this as the Heritage Crossing Project, or the Northwest Triangle. They are, if you've been by the site, they've got just about all the footers, if not all the footers poured, concrete, steel, ready to start coming out of the ground, which is a great thing, especially in any construction. Your biggest unknown is what's under your feet. And they've made it through all of that really well. So their construction will continue, I believe, for 16 months on the first building. And they are already engaged with the architects and engineers for their layout of the next phases. They expect to come back to the city and to the RDA in quote unquote spring. So maybe March, maybe April, we'll start seeing what the details look like of the layout for the next step on the north side of the railroad tracks.
So they're spending money on architects and civil engineers for building two.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
And yeah, they're all in 100%. So it's really exciting. And then also on Densply, they recently received Planning Commission and Zoning Hearing Board approval to subdivide and do a subdivision on the large parking lot areas to create 62 townhome parcels that will be individual lots. It will likely be an HOA or a condo of some sort, so they'll have private road access and private maintenance. Some of their variances that they needed were some setbacks and some like lot size minimums because it doesn't match our zoning code. But they received approval and a little bit of praise from both Planning Commission and Zoning Hearing Board. It excites me because their plan is to build 62 brand new townhomes and have them available for sale. So this isn't 62 rental houses. This is 62 for sale new homes in York, which is really exciting. Actual developer is unknown. It likely won't be CAM or York Realty Partners. They are marketing the sites as fully entitled, ready to build 62 parcels. So they're looking for a partner that would actually do the home building. But that's forward progress. And they're looking to start probably this summer on some of the internal environmental abatement. Of course, that building has lead-based paint and asbestos. They've been actually doing a little bit of selective demolition, taking down drop ceilings and the old office partitions to clean that out so that they have access to get in and do the environmental remediation above ground. And we've already submitted the draft report to the DEP for the very, very, very limited soil environmental conditions. So there are some areas that just need to be capped and repaved. And so the site's looking really good. They're full speed ahead. They're spending a ton of money on design and consultants and engineering. They've got their building plans just about done as well. They're ready to really rock and roll on the site. It's really exciting. And at full build out, I believe that ends up being 177 apartments, about 30,000 square feet of retail commercial space, yet to be determined what that will be, and 62 townhomes. So it's a really good project. That's all I have for an update.
All right. Only thing I have is, unfortunately, we received Aaron's resignation this morning. He emailed Bland and I, just his obligations with his, what else he has going on is just too much for him. So thank Aaron for all of his years of service. I don't know how many he had, but it's been quite a while, more than 15, I'm sure. So we thank him for that and wish him the best in his future endeavors. Anything else for the good of the order? All right, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.